healing along the masculine journey, and this idea of how that implies really a recovery from woundedness and trauma and hurt. And I hope this is just a great reminder of stay the course, right? Stay in this.
Live this way.
Yep. Yeah. And move slowly, intentionally into more and more of this conversation.
With God, there is always more. More love, more life, more freedom. Welcome to Zoe's Exploring More with Michael Thompson. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "Our Heavenly Father has provided many delightful inns for us along our journey, but He takes great care to see that we do not mistake any of them for home." Join me and the team as we explore the kingdom together, discovering the deep truths and offering encouragement for the journey. There is always more.
Friends and allies, welcome to the Exploring More podcast. Michael Thompson hanging out with S.J. Jennings.
The
S.J. Jennings. And we're always excited to do a podcast, but this
always?
I am.
Yeah? Do you always have the energy?
I do.
Do you pull it up by your bootstraps sometimes?
Yeah. I do.
Okay.
I do.
I am.
And
I'm excited. This is going to be a good one.
Yeah, and I'm excited, and you say why, and I say
why?
Because we get to talk about something that is just critical to us, to the mission of Zoe and its healing.
Yeah.
And we've just had the privilege of being with 400 guys at a weekend and walking them through the masculine journey, through orientation, through, going into their stories, exploring their journey, and out just lots of that's what Heart of Warrior Encounter is about.
Yeah.
And so we thought a couple things kind of coming into convergence. One, we created another YouVersion devotional that's found on the Bible app, one of the reading plans that is healing along the masculine journey. So if you didn't go to the weekend, hang in here, because this is going to apply to that YouVersion Bible app.
Yeah.
Devotional. And, I think about, as we were talking about it this morning, you brought up a word that I think is just a word that I don't think it's the title of this podcast, but it is the essence.
Oh, you wanted me to say it. Recovery. Yeah, recovery. Because I just think about when we go to the weekend, year after year, we take Monday off, because it just is a lot. It's a lot. I mean, so whether you're there as a part of the conference team, whether you're at the weekend as a participant, in the audience, it's not. What did the guy say to you one time? He's like, "Don't call this a retreat, bro."
And we don't.
It just isn't.
Yeah. And he said, "I'm exhausted."
I'm exhausted
so
at the end. There's that part of recovery after the weekend, and then the larger focus for this podcast and others we've done is recovery of your heart. And that's when we talk about healing, we're talking about getting your heart back.
So just to expand recovery before we break, as we finish the intro, man, I was thinking about after surgery. Yeah. You're in recovery.
In the recovery room.
I think of vacations I've been on with my family. Vacations. Yeah. I have to recover from that.
Right.
I think, intense periods, grief, loss. I think
about the recovery community
and all of that.
And so not to diminish that in any way, shape, or form. When you're in recovery from, alcohol, substance abuse or behavior or that, you're in recovery from that. But we're talking about recovery from living in your false self. You're a part of the recovery community.
Right. Living in Middle Earth, living in Narnia, living in this space of in between first coming, thank you, Jesus, for coming, and he's coming back. And in the midst of that, there is plenty going on in which we need to recover and heal and recover on the masculine journey. And that is what we're talking about today. So we'll be right back.
Hey friends, Caleb here. I just wanted to let you know how you can access the Healing Along the Masculine Journey YouVersion plan that Michael and SJ are talking about. All you're going to do is take your mobile device and open up the Bible app. You're going to click that Discover search bar at the bottom there and type in Zoe. Okay? And then after you search Zoe, click on our name. You'll find us. We'll be the only result. And then scroll down and you'll see the Healing Along the Masculine Journey 6-day plan. You can click day 1, click start reading, and you can even press play for the audio version for it to be read to you. We hope you enjoy this as much as we have enjoyed going through it ourselves, and that you find healing with Jesus along the way.
Welcome back to the Exploring More podcast, Healing Along the Masculine Journey, and this idea of how that implies really a recovery from woundedness and trauma and hurt. And like at the conference, and again, if you haven't been to the conference, this is if you're in life, I hope this podcast is helpful. But if you went to the weekend, I hope this is just a great reminder of stay the course, right? Stay in this.
Live this way.
Yep. Yeah. And move slowly, intentionally into more and more of this conversation. So I'd like to hit, if you would, we're going to...
The definition of recovery?
I think this is... No, did you just do that?
I just did that.
Okay. You can do that in a minute.
I've got it on hold.
And then I want you to talk about what we have offered many times in terms of the masculine journey, just the stages of the masculine journey. I think we need 5 minutes on these stages.
Yeah, sure.
We're going to hit, I think, Caleb, we're hitting 3 in part 1 and 3 in part 2.
Mm-hmm.
So which would you like to do first, the stages or the definition of recovery?
Yeah, no, let's start with the stages. I think, if you've been to the weekend, and maybe we can put it up on the screen, Caleb, there's a couple different ways that we talk about the stages of masculinity. Or the ways that we kind of display them on the screen. There's the linear timeline, which I think most of us think of it that way. When I was a little kid, I was a boy, right? I was from little guy to, about 10 years old, 8, 9, 10 years old. And then, you maybe get a bike, you get a skateboard, you start exploring, you go into the explorer stage, you have a little more responsibility, you might have a paper route or mow the lawn or something like that. And then after Explorer, which kind of wraps up somewhere around maybe 15, 16, usually around the time when you start to get more freedom and you're transitioning into that warrior stage, into the early 20s and into that. And you want to talk about the lover, how it brackets. Yeah. I mean, just briefly, I'm trying to get the linear, and then we'll go
so after the warrior stage comes the lover stage, and yet the lover stage, it covers all the stages.
It eclipses.
Yeah. We just had an eclipse. So as a boy, so much of it is about your lover heart is about receiving love.
Yeah, being loved.
About being loved.
Sure.
So that you can love. So after the warrior, though, we drop the lover stage in there because that's when is best, most appropriate, even though the lover found most of us when we were in explorer stage, when we discovered girls. But the masculine heart's really not ready to be entrusted with a feminine heart at 14 or 12. And so, so without getting into that until the next the next episode, the lover heart is that part of us that needs to discover romance and beauty with God, so that we can also then be good for the hearts of others. And so
love well.
All right. Yeah. And then the king stage happens next in your 40s, 50s, early 60s, and then you graduate to the elder sage stage, which we've covered the masculine journey in multiple spaces, but just not wanting to miss some of the obvious and bring that up now as we look at healing along the masculine journey in the context of this staying the course and being willing to recover from what in the world, because if you're just learning about these stages, it doesn't mean you didn't go through them. It means now you're getting some categories for them.
Yeah, and some awareness.
And awareness.
Some things.
And so looking back, the invitation is, well, what happened?
Right.
What happened to me? And that was at the Encounter Weekend. That's a big part of the invitation.
Absolutely.
Is, have you explored what has formed and shaped?
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I was thinking about preparing for this. All right, I'm going to ask you: is there a difference? Do you think there's a difference between how I think, how I feel, and what I believe?
Is there a difference between how I think, how I feel, and how
and what I believe?
What I believe. I tried asking the question, or repeating it back to you to give myself a little more time to think about it, and it really didn't help much. So I'm just going to say,
it's good.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think it's kind of like you got to have all those ingredients to make up your heart in some ways. You know, it's so funny. I was just reading back in some of my old journals from previous events. I'm looking in one from 2009.
Right.
Seriously, the first one I went to, and it's like, you know, a pile of flour on its own is kind of, you don't want to eat that. A pile of sugar on its own, you don't want to eat that either. A pile of butter, no. But you put all those things together, and what do you got?
It makes a cake.
Cake.
Give me an egg or two.
So maybe an egg or two, but that's what it makes me think of is, you know, the thinking part of you, the feeling part of you, and the belief part of you makes up your whole self.
Yeah, that's great. Great answer. It's and
I know it's not the answer you were probably looking for.
It is, and I think what's so great about the moment that you ponder that is you actually start to kind of segment those things, though they do mix together. Love that analogy, but that alone, how many of us image bearers, human beings, even distinguish between what you're thinking about something, how you feel towards something, and what you believe. Those are different.
Yeah, I would have to say the belief part is probably what we think about the least. Yeah.
And the emotions and the feelings often come on top of what we.
Well, they come out of the belief, whether we're aware of it or not.
Yeah.
So, and that's the point of the masculine. Back in this journey of the masculine timeline, is we have these belief systems that are operating in the background, and we don't even know they're there.
Right.
Right.
So this is just a huge part of, I think, considering healing, because this is what we're talking about. We created the YouVersion devotional and the reading plan to help men explore more deeply into their masculine journey, and those three coordinates are huge.
Yeah.
They're just huge to do that.
Yeah.
And so to even be invited to look back, right? And I know this is a bit of a counselor's couch, if you will. How do you feel about that? But
it's an important question.
It's an important question. And where did those feelings come from? And what do you believe? You know, what's that how's that affecting or maybe even infecting? So I was going to say, so I just throw those three things kind of out there, those ingredients to mix together, to talk about. That really is some of the core ingredients to your heart, soul.
Yeah.
That whole spiritual being, spiritual man that most of us have not tended to until or unless it hurts.
Something hurts. Yeah.
Something
and you can't take it anymore.
Or I am in a ditch now.
Yeah.
You know, I've been in this ditch before
Yeah.
but I can't I'm not sure I can recover from this. I'm not sure how to get out of this, how to stop this behavior.
Yeah.
And if you're trying just to stop a behavior, that's putting a Band-Aid on a torn ligament.
Dude,
You got to get
you got to go back. And you know, we brought up the linear timeline. Let's bring up the foundational one now, because I think it's even better in the context of what we're talking about. Serves us better. So if you look at the foundational one, you know, boyhood, explorer, they build one on top of the other.
Yeah.
And if you're in the king stage and things aren't right, you got to think of it like a house.
Yeah.
So there's something wrong foundationally. The formative years, they call them that for a reason. We've said that a bunch of times. But think of that as the foundation that all the other ones are built upon.
Yeah.
So if you're 45 years old and you can't stop being angry about, pick a topic, whatever it is, if you go back down to the foundation, you're going to find something. This just happened to me 3 days ago.
Okay.
I'm serious, man. I've talked about it on the podcast before. I've been to therapy. I've been to counseling intensives, all this stuff. I had a really hard time remembering things from when I was a little kid. Really hard time. So I'm getting ready to go out for the day, and I'm having some quiet time. And God brings me back to 5 years old. So now this is, when I was 6, we moved to Massachusetts. So this is still in New Jersey. And
you remember more of Massachusetts?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. I remember very little of New Jersey, you know, because I just don't remember it much. Well, I have this one memory, and it's the earliest memory I can think
So
of.
far? This
so
is
far.
the new record?
Yeah. This is exactly talking about going back, right? Yeah. I'm sitting on the front concrete steps of our house, little guy, 5 years old. My brother, Clifford, is 17. He might have been 18. He's got a brand new Mustang, new to him, right? So if I'm 5, this is 1975, and it's a 66, I think it was. So new to him, white, red interior, you know, the coupe.
Yeah.
He's got this brand new car. I'm a car, even at that age, I love cars. He's going out on a date with his girlfriend and won't take me with him. And I am
upset
about it. And I remember sitting on the steps. I remember looking out at the curb and seeing the car. I remember crying, wanting him to take me with him, them to take me with him. And I remember seeing the car leave. And that moment, I can trace behavior up to into my 50s now, back to that moment. I'm uninvited. They don't want you, you know, and so then what that leads to is a few years later, 7 or 8 years old, I'm going to make myself useful no matter what, so that I'll always be asked to be a part.
Right. Right.
Yeah. I mean, so that formative thing at 5 years old, my foundation, as we look at the foundational version of the masculine journey,
boyhood, right?
It's cracked. So now I'm in the king stage, and I'm wondering why there's cracks in the wall.
Yeah.
You know, and this just comes to me the other day.
Yeah.
Been on this journey
and
since 2009. You know, so you really do have to go back.
Yeah, the boyhood stage, to revisit that, as we talk about over the weekend, you know, what are the odds that you've interpreted your life accurately, is an invitation. It's just an invitation to go back and even consider where and when and how, and how how those events have shaped the way I think, how I feel, and what I believe.
Yeah.
What do I believe I need to do in order to make life work, or at least make life not hurt?
Arrange for love.
So so when we look at boyhood, particularly, I think about what you just said, and it took me to another story in Braveheart. Young William Wallace is in the beginning of the film. He is going to be left by his dad and brother, who are going to a meeting of of Scotsman, and to talk about this threat that's going on. That young Wallace,
Longshanks,
young Wallace, William doesn't really know what's going on, but he wants to come.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to come on. He says, "I can fight." Right? You remember the scene, and his dad says,
"I never remember the scene."
"I know you can, but I need you to stay here and take care of the place while we're gone. I need, and he's probably 8,
Yep.
9. So, but the way his dad handles his heart in that moment, it seems to have a different effect. Now, obviously, the tragedy's coming.
Sure.
With his dad not coming back,
And then Argyle steps in.
and then
right?
but that
For
whole
rescue. Yeah.
that whole that moment in that scene when he says, "I know you can fight, but it's not. That's not what makes us a man. It's our wits and having our wits about us." And then his uncle, as you brought up, says the same thing. You need to learn to use this, before he points to the sword.
Right.
So this to say that it's confusing is to understate it.
Oh yeah.
I'm not talking about Braveheart. I mean, the whole journey has such confusing moments where what are you to draw upon to interpret it? And if there's nobody good there to help you interpret it, and I know your brother wasn't trying to be mean.
No, he was 17 going on a date.
Yeah, who wants his kid brother jumping in the back seat?
Come on. But he drives away, and I remember being there alone.
Yeah, the snake slithers into the moment and implants this feeling that has this misinterpretation.
Fear.
And here we go, and so I think about boyhood in this stage, and you said something earlier I want to hit too real quick. Just thought of it again. You said and I almost jumped across the table. If you get in your 40s and if you haven't done, I'm like, it's not. It's not if you're wounded or have some crazy crap that comes up in you or is. It's not if. 100% injury rate.
That's true.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some
and
are
if you
better.
don't think you're injured, you're kidding yourself. You're on something that makes you not feel the pain of the injury.
I was going to say, you have decorated your cell well.
What's that stuff they spray on you when you're playing football and you break a finger or whatever? Something I can't
freeze
remember. It freezes it up.
Yeah,
you're dosing that
you're
stuff
Mr.
pretty
Freeze.
hard.
Yeah. You're. But I think that guy who's, I don't know why he'd be listening to us right now, but if he was, that guy has really not gone back,
right?
And not gone back in a way to consider, just how much he's endured, and how much he has survived in his masculine journey. It's true for women in the feminine journey as well. We are amazing at adapting and forging ahead. And moving on, right?
And we need resiliency, right? Because life is hard.
Yeah.
Right? But at the same time, it's not just grin and bear it or, suck it up or that is not helpful.
Yeah, there's just too many things. There's way too many people who have access to you. Mm-hmm. Even that, it wasn't your brother's intentions to make you feel that way. Mm-hmm. He might have smiled and threw you a quarter for candy. It wasn't going to make it better,
right?
In how your heart longed to belong, and why wouldn't it? That's what we were made to do. Mm-hmm. We're made to belong. We're made to connect. We're made to be invited. We're made to be seen. So I want to hit these these questions just in terms of reviewing.
Yeah. So boyhood, explorer, warrior.
Yeah. The boyhood questions are: do you see me? Do you love what you see? Do you want to be with me?
Right.
That's just innate. It's just there.
We're born with it.
When we think of developmental psychology, or in this case, developmental spiritual psychology, these are the categories and those are the questions that we carry. Some other questions are coming in the next stage, but those questions, as you said, foundationally, you hit the planet with them.
You hit the planet with them, and the answers that you receive is what is foundational and formative to you.
Yeah. And
so if you're,
what do I have to do?
If you're William Wallace and your dad says, it's such a great scene. Please go look it up. But I know you can. I know you can. It's such a great handling of young William's heart.
And then just devastation.
But then the tragedy comes.
The tragedy comes, and he loses
Anyway.
his dad. So, I think understanding your heart's question is critical then to being able to invite God in and invite the Father in to the questions. So it sounds and feels and looks like, asking God, how have those questions been answered, right?
Help
Father,
me understand my boyhood. Yeah.
What kind of story do I have?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of story was I born into with my mom, with my dad? How were they loved is going to determine so much of how they will then love.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on, and to ask God to, go with you back into boyhood, so that you might better understand. And I think you're so good as and normal of part of the oriented culture. But when I think about how many men are not, this is still the work that we're inviting them to do just feels like, wait, what do you mean? So King Me's very helpful
Heart of a
at
Warrior,
bringing orientation
no
to this.
question.
Heart of a Warrior.
Even go back to Search and Rescue with Two
all
Realms,
the
Two
Kingdoms, right.
Or listen to the podcast
Yeah.
episodes about those things. Yeah.
So in the Explorer stage, the questions graduate to, am I strong and can I come through?
Do I have what it takes?
Do I have what it takes? Those questions don't replace, do you see me? Do you love what you see? They just, they as you said in the foundational, in the building, they just come on top of.
Yeah.
And then
I would just want to pause there for 1 second, because do I have what it takes, even that early, and in my story, I know in other stories too, in yours too, do I have what it takes turns into, do I have what it takes to be loved? It turns into a performative. Here's what I need to do. Here's how I need to arrange for things. It gets twisted pretty early.
Yeah.
But you're talking about the question that we are born with.
Yeah, that just it when it's time, maybe
Am I strong?
3 or 4 year old doesn't really get into the strength and can I come through, but at some 8, 9, 10, definitely as you get 12, all right, now we don't get smiley faces on our papers. We get grades in sixth grade. So now there's plenty of evidence of performance and the need to learn how things work, and there's knowledge that keeps you alive, like not jumping off the wall.
Buildings.
Yes, and not running.
Some of us did that.
Not
anyway.
running into the street, right? So you're learning how things work, but then as you get a little old, you're learning how money works. You're learning the value of a dollar and what is it to work for it. And then you step into the warrior stage, which is another stage altogether. All right, now we're learning about good and evil. We're learning that there's a spiritual realm that is not safe, but there's elements of that realm that are good. And so, navigating that is all of those stages are just critical to. When I look back and I look at my masculine journey, I think, man, not to throw my dad under the bus or my mom, but I didn't. I just kind of got all that stuff, if any of it, osmosis, I guess. Go to church. I don't remember being initiated and validated into those things. Now, I was loved as a boy. I think I had a great boyhood. I think the wheels started falling off like they do when you get them and you start moving.
Yeah, some of us drive the wheels off.
Right, and to explore, and then stuff finds you, because you're so much more outside of your parents' eye. If your parents if the guardianship was intentional and able to kind of keep you safer in that first stage. Man, when you get with the other boys at 10, 11, 12, girls, you know, you could have been loved well in boyhood, but now, man, one bully,
Yeah.
one shaming incident, one inability to,
Oh, yeah.
one strikeout, you know, I mean, these can be weighty effects. And so I want to hit, I prepared one thing that I want to get in on this episode and about these stages and about the challenge, SJ, between, so there's a real invitation, opportunity, and a real challenge and difficulty between feeling what you're feeling and then examining it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how that boyhood memory came up, but for a few seconds, you were in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the transition comes and you start to actually think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So
and
just
that- I wanna
to
take-
be more
yeah.
clear, you know, I'm 5, want to go, told no. So the belief comes, you know, I have to arrange to be invited. I'm not worthy of being a part, whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
And none of it is as
When I'm-
sophisticated when you're 5 as
no,
what you're talking
of course
about.
not. What I'm about to say,
But-
but by going back, I'm collecting and connecting dots now. You know, even as recent as the last few days. You know, hey, we're going to go here and do this thing. Well, why didn't you ask me if I wanted to go? At 53,
Yeah.
comes up.
Mike and Dan and me.
No. Oh, well, maybe.
You
That
know?
might have been that lunch. Yeah.
Yeah.
It
I've
might
been
have been
there.
that lunch.
I've
You
been
know,
there.
like
Jim and Tom go play golf.
But and you
they
didn't
don't-
ask me.
You don't call
Sons
me.
of Guns. Yeah.
I can help them look for their ball.
I know, man, and I'm telling you, I'm 5 years old again.
It's a great point.
I mean, in that moment at 53.
So much of this recovery and healing and invitation to do that. We begin to put the landing gear on this, I want to bring C.S. Lewis
do
into
it.
this
Yeah.
and say that this is how it works. For those that were at the conference, this is how it works. It's for you to see things in real time, in a real moment, that you've been given now some perspective, as I put my 1.5s on and goggles on. You've been given some perspective, and now what do you see?
Mm-hmm.
You know, now how do you decode this? Now, and I heard this the other day. I loved it. My anger is an invitation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because your anger is just
What-
connected to something.
What is that about, right?
What do we say?
Why are you so angry?
Right? I thought about it earlier when you were saying so. Seabiscuit.
Yeah.
You know, Red, what are you
What are
so angry
about?
at? You
Right,
know?
right. So this is just, I'm just going to read a couple paragraphs of C.S. Lewis. This is from a essay that he wrote called "The Light in the Tool Shed."
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and it's look it up, Google it. You'll get the whole thing.
It's
I'm
a
not
great
gonna,
story
I'm not
about
going
how
to
it
cover
came
the whole.
about, too.
Not going to
Yeah.
cover the whole thing, but
Mhm.
it made me think of what we're trying to talk about today in Healing the Masculine Journey, the YouVersion Bible app, the men that were with us at the conference, and how do you stay in this? How do you stay with this? How do you keep knocking on that door and seeking, asking, and knocking, right? So in the Meditation in a Tool Shed, C.S. Lewis takes this theme up, and here's what he says. I was standing today, says Lewis, in the dark tool shed. The light was shining outside, and through the crack at the top of the door there came a sunbeam. From where I stood, that beam of light, with the specks of dust floating in it, was the most striking thing in the place. Everything else was almost pitch black. I was seeing the beam, not seeing things by it. Then I moved so that the beam fell on my eyes. Instantly, the whole previous picture vanished. I saw no tool shed, and above all, no beam. Instead, I saw, framed in the irregular cranny at the top of the door, green leaves moving on the branches of a tree outside and beyond. 90-odd million miles away, the sun. Looking along the beam and looking at the beam are very different experiences. But this is only a very simple example of the difference between looking at and looking along. And as we wrap this one up and transition to the next one, that's what I want our friends to hear. I may have to bring it at the next conference and just say there's a difference between looking at it and looking along and seeing what you need to see in both spaces, what you think about both spaces, what you feel and what you believe. Because, SJ, this journey for some of this stuff you can make an appointment for. Some of this you can go to a weekend for. Some of you can have a counselor and you step. I have come into my counseling, being counseled now, my therapist. I've gone in with my agenda only to find out that wasn't the agenda. That was the envelope that the agenda was actually in. Man. So a gifted person, a gifted man who has that ability to go, I don't think that's, because he's looking at it and he's looking along and he's got that ability to ask a few questions, and you all of a sudden you're going, whoa, wait a minute,
man.
Are you saying what are you saying?
This lunch the other day that I'm talking about, like, why didn't they ask me to come? I'm walking out to the mailbox that evening and that memory came back to me. It wasn't even like, you know what this lunch and not being invited to go to lunch was about. It was about this time when you were 5. Didn't happen that way. That just came back into my head. Out of nowhere. Supposedly.
Great question. Could be, I think, a very relevant question can be, well, when did you feel that way before?
Right.
When have you felt like that?
Oh,
And
it was.
Why do you think about that the way you think about that?
Right.
And how?
Right.
Yeah. All of that.
It was the beam of light. So I'm looking right at it. So it just looks like a one thing.
Yeah.
And then I change my perspective and I see this line back to when I was 5 years old.
Perfect. Yeah. So, we'll call. Let's drop. Close this one out.
Yeah. Rapid deceleration.
So we can hit the next stages and hopefully encourage some friends to either stay on the healing journey, get on the healing journey, and be equipped and encouraged to do it. There's nothing worse than stepping into something that you don't know, and you're being asked to do it, and it doesn't. You don't know what to do. You know. So I think hopefully in this podcast we've kind of broken ground there, or we've given some men that we've got to spend some time with the next mile marker. Like keep going.
Right.
Keep moving. So.
Yeah, man. It's I think I don't know why it popped into my head, but Mike Tyson. I don't want to learn to box by stepping into the ring to fight, Yeah. Because you're just going to get
clocked,
clobbered. So this has been good, man. I want to encourage folks to, if you don't have the Bible app on your phone, just look up YouVersion Bible app.
Zoe.
And then when you get to the Bible app at the bottom, you do a search for Zoe, and you'll find us and all the plans on there, and they're free. Yeah. So, and you can go into them with friends or with individuals, or just by yourself. That's to check that out.
That's right. Hey, if you do us a favor when you come across these podcasts and like them, share them, forward them, subscribe. That's all that's so helpful for us. Actually, it's a great way. It's a great way to invite the internet.
Yes.
to invite others.
Invite others. Well, you know what I found is funny is subscribing is great, but actually watching and listening is more important. So I just filled in on that not that long ago.
I think I'm probably our worst subscriber that
Are
way.
you?
Because
Yeah.
I was here.
You're just liking stuff and going away again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
yeah.
I was here. I liked what we talked about. I enjoyed it. So anyway,
see.
hey, we'll see you next time on the Exploring More podcast. Thanks for being with us.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of Exploring More. The landing page for this podcast is zoe.org/podcast. That's ZOWEH.org/podcast, where you can find the show notes and various platforms to which we broadcast. You can also find us and the Life of More by visiting Zoe on YouVersion Bible app, Right Now Media, our Facebook page, and Zoe on Instagram and Twitter. Remember, with God there is always more, and you were made for more.